There have been various international measures to deal with the energy. First is the Brundtland Report. Brundtland Report is also known as Our Common Future. Uh, the chapter 7 of the report, titled as energy choices for environment and development, deals with the energy use, conservation, protection practices across the globe. It talks about the fossil fuels, nuclear energy, wind energy, etc. This was the first commission which has outlined the need to regulate the energy. Secondly, we have the Commission on Sustainable Development. This commission was established by the United Nations General Assembly in 1992 to ensure effective follow-up of United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, which is also known as Earth Summit. The 9th session of the Commission on Sustainable Development, which was held on 16 to 27 April in 2011 in New York, was the first time energy was addressed at integrated way within the United Nations system. Commission noted in its meeting that energy is central to achieving the goal of sustainable development and has identified various issues and discussed their challenges, and in the last recommended various measures. World Summit on Sustainable Development also talks about energy. It took place in Johannesburg in South Africa on 26th of August to 4th September 2002. World Summit on Sustainable Development gathered a number of leaders from the business and non-governmental organizations 10 years after the first Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, and therefore this summit is popularly known as Rio Plus 10. In this summit, much was discussed, accomplishments were made, but when it came to the decision and agreements towards action, it failed. It failed that because the 5 thematic issues, water, energy, health, agriculture and biodiversity, were of great importance, as these offered a unique opportunity for the exchange of ideas and experiences between members of governmental and non-governmental organizations from all over the world. The next, we have the International Renewable Energy Conference. International Renewable Energy Conference is a meeting of senior level representatives from the executive and from the legislative branches of the governments, the national governments, the sub-level, the sub-national governments. It also includes international organizations, the finance and business community. It also includes business community, and in the last it includes civil society, who are working to advance the integration of renewable energy in their countries. We have seen International Renewable Energy Conference and discussed its essentialities. Further, at international forum, new development has taken place, and that is very important in the sense that it provides for a charter, and the name is the Energy Charter Treaty. It has been designed to promote energy security through the operation of more open and competitive energy markets, while respecting the principle of sustainable development and sovereignty over energy resources. This charter tries to maintain a balance between the ongoing practices and our objective of achieving sustainable development. It tries to maintain harmony with the non-renewable and renewable resources. It rather proceeds towards finding those mechanisms and to promote those practices through which we can achieve the objectives of what we call sustainable development. The Energy Charter Treaty was signed in December 1994 and entered into force in April 1998. The treaty's provisions focused broadly on 4 areas. The first one is that the protection of foreign investments based on the extension of national treatment and most favored nations treatment. It says that the MFN principle and the national treatment principle, which applies to the WTO, must apply for the energy also, and the protection of foreign investment must be there through these rules. It also says that the protection against non-commercial risk should also be one consideration for the purpose of energy investment. And secondly, it says that the non-discriminatory conditions for trade in energy materials, products and energy related equipment based on WTO rules and provisions to ensure reliable cross border energy transit flows through pipelines, grids and other means of transportation. It further says that the resolution of disputes between the participating states, and in the case of investments between investors and host states, the last objective of the treaty is the promotion of energy efficiency and the attempts to minimize the environmental impact of energy production and its use. For this matter, treaty contains a large number of provisions in its articles. On a summary note, we can call, at least in Indian context, that the first and the foremost act which we have, the Energy Conservation Act of 2001, has failed miserably. This act is not, it does not look into the issue of energy requirement in relation to existing energy pool, given the fact that our dependence on the non-renewable energy sources are increasing significantly. When this act was conceptualized, then practice was our society was much dependent, and the practices that have been followed were over the renewable energy sources. But later on, because renewable energy sources they have different set of problems like price fluctuation with the imported fuels and various other problems, as we discussed in the previous slides. Therefore, the non-renewable energy resources, they have proved themselves to be the better alternatives, and this Energy Conservation Act does not take into account the changing scenario, and for that matter it needs a modification or amendment. And there have been delay in passing various amendments acts, as we discussed in the previous slides. I have elaborated that various amendments acts are pending before the parliament, and they have not been passed because of our legislative lethargy. However, these amendments act, they should be passed to cater to the existing needs, but in order to achieve and the sustainable solution for the energy problems, we need to have the Renewable Energy Act, which was introduced in the parliament but has not been passed. This act takes into consideration all the renewable energy sources, and it attempts to codify or provides the ways in which the energy sources can be utilized at the maximum by the society and by every stakeholder involved in the energy consumption, preservation and conservation. In the last, legislative and bureaucratic hurdles in the implementation of policies, whether it is the national policies or the state policies or the policies of providing energy access to the citizens, or the or to policies regarding the energy security, they all which they all have not achieved their objectives because of the bad implementation on behalf of the executive authorities. And therefore, there is a need that the legislative authorities must try their level best, and the bureaucratic authorities, they also must act in accordance with the act to fully achieve the objectives of different acts, so that energy can be better provide so that the energy can be provided better to the citizens.